All right, and we are back for Real Talk episode
32.
Jesse 32. Thank you. And we are so honored to have Cheyenne Helm with the Bright Light Foundation with us. Thank you so much for being with us.
Uh, Thank you guys for having me.
We are so excited. It's such a privilege to have you today. Just as an episode disclosure for our listeners, we will be speaking about the topics of gun violence, fentanyl dangers, and grief. So please take care of yourself first. Only join us for this episode if it's going to be beneficial to your wellness. And of course, please feel free to skip it if it is not going to be beneficial for your wellness, because as y'all know on Real Talk, we're all about self-care and that comes first. But
Yes.
to bring us into the episode, the Bright Light Foundation believes that grace empowers, stories inspire, and hope ignites, which I love. Guided by faith, saving lives, the Bright Light Foundation is committed to raising awareness about the perils of fentanyl, gun violence, and pregnancy loss while sharing the message of hope and solace found in Jesus Christ for those who have faced loss. The Bright Light Foundation aims to create a haven of support, compassion, and inspiration, which is anchored in faith. And again, Cheyenne, we cannot be more grateful to you for coming on today and having some real talk with Jesse and me and sharing your journey and some information about your wonderful foundation.
Absolutely. I'm so
Yes.
honored to do so.
Yeah, we are very, very grateful. I know the Bright Light Foundation has such an amazing message of hope in the midst of dangers and loss. Could you tell us about your journey into forming the Bright Light Foundation?
Oh yeah. It's been a journey, and the Bright Light Foundation was formed in the loss of my daughter Brighton, who passed away on February the 26th of 2023 to fentanyl exposure. That year of 2023, I was so lost. I had no idea what to do with my life. I actually didn't even want to be here anymore, if I'm being completely honest. And we can get into that later on. Um, but I was very much um, not wanting to be a part of this world anymore. Um, I ended up giving my life back to Christ. And even then, I was still going through some suicidal thoughts and just not wanting to be here because I felt that my part of my life, which was Brighton, was consumed. Losing her, it just, I felt like I had no purpose here, basically. And so later on into 2023, it was about midsummer. I went to a women's conference at a church, and it was my first time ever being at one. And it was called Unbecoming Me. And I went there, and I think it was a 2 day event. And I kept praying and I kept praying. And I finally come to a conclusion that I needed to do something in honor of my daughter to not let her death be in vain. And so in August of 2023, I had gotten with one of my very close friends who was actually a board member on the Bright Light Foundation. And we were just discussing some ideas. First, we were like, maybe Brighton's book club. And I was like, no, it's bigger than that. And so I actually got in my Bible and I was asking God, I was like, what do I need to do? And it's absolutely a miracle in itself. I'm not going to say it's crazy because nothing's crazy. It's a miracle in itself that I come across a verse that stated to bring light to the Gentiles, bringing light to the darkness. And I was like, Bright Light Foundation. And so me and my board member now, we were working on that from August in September. And then we officially launched it on my birthday of October 2023. And so that's a little bit about how the Bright Light Foundation came about because I had to find something to not let my daughter's death be in vain. And with all the information that I had consumed about fentanyl and things like that, I was like, there's so many lives being taken that I have to do something. And
Wow.
unfortunately, my daughter was one of those lives that were taken.
And thank you for sharing with us. And it's so amazing to hear these stories of someone like you who can take pain and loss and really transform it into something that helps others. And I think foundations and agencies that start from that foundation are so helpful because it's real. It's not
Mhm.
just a cause. You really understand what the people you're trying to serve and to support are going through. And I'm just so appreciative for individuals like you who can do so much good in the world with so much strength.
Yes. Yes.
Also, the Bright Light Foundation, the Bright Light part, it has a song stuck in my head from Godspell. I won't sing because that's not my strong suit, but it's all about let your bright light shine before men. So now I'm just like humming that the whole time we're talking. But um,
That's what we do. We let our light shine and bring
yes,
Yeah.
light to the darkness.
Yeah.
amazing. Could you share with our listeners just some of the programs and support that the Bright Light Foundation offers?
Absolutely. So, over the past 2 years, the Bright Light Foundation has grown tremendously. We have reached so many people. We host about 4 annual events a year, and the first one we host is our Families Fighting Fentanyl event. Um, we do our back to school backpack drive. We have our August overdose awareness day where we partner with other organizations. I personally do a lot more on event side when people invite me to come speak and things like that. But as far as the Bright Light Foundation and as a whole, that is what we do. And then we have our annual Bright Light Christmas Drive where we give back to the families, and each year that looks differently. So last year in 2025, we ended up giving back to 73 families that were in need here in Kentucky. And the event was amazing. Prior to that, we gave back to UK Children's Hospital, Brighton's Daycare, and then for individual families. So each year, God has been putting on my heart something different to do to reach the people. And so that's a little bit of the events that we host annually. We are now incorporating naloxone training that will be happening throughout the entire year. So we have our mobile unit set up. And then we are starting to do winter outreaches. So we had a winter outreach, our very first one scheduled for tomorrow, but we're looking for snow. So we had to postpone that, unfortunately. But we are going to be doing winter outreaches, spring outreaches, where we are giving back to the homeless shelters. We will be collecting personal wellness kits, hygiene kits, and just meeting the people where they are, praying for them, loving on them. We'll be giving out also naloxone and training there. And then we will also be educating them on my story and why it is important if these individuals have families to be aware of their surroundings with their children. Or so, you can end up in a situation like me. So the Bright Light Foundation does quite a bit. We're in schools. I go and speak in churches, conferences. I speak on panels at colleges, things like that. So we do a lot, but I also do a lot to keep
Yeah.
this the foundation up and going and Brighton's name alive, things like that. So, and it's not just about me, but my team backing everything that I do. Everything we do as a whole, I would not be able to be here without them. So very grateful that God continues to place the right people on the path that we're on.
Amazing. So much hands-on, really amazing work.
Yes, we do
Yeah.
we do a lot.
You definitely do a lot. I know when I first emailed you, off topic, but I was working and it was like 3 a.m. and I was on YouTube and I saw, the Texas productions of, there's so many families on there that talk about fentanyl. And, I watched your episode because it just, it was a little girl that was on there. I was like, what? And I watched it and it touched my heart so much. I was like, I have to email this mom. This mom is I admire everything that you've done, and losing your daughter and grieving and creating this foundation. It it's amazing to me your strength and you get through it with Jesus Christ, and I love that. Um, And like I said, when I emailed you, I was like, she might not email me back, but when you emailed me, like I was so, like when you just, like you said, things aren't crazy, but I just felt like the need to reach out to you because when I watched that story, I literally could not stop thinking about it. And, I was like, that is an amazing person who can do that. And like I know you mentioned, in the story that you did have suicidal thoughts, that you felt like your life didn't have purpose. And to see someone, you could see the raw emotion in that 30-minute, 40-minute video that they did on the Texas production. And then to see you come from that raw emotion to bring in the Bright Light Foundation was so inspiring to me. That strength alone, and I just, I know this is off topic. This is not a question, but I just wanted you to know, like, I admire your strength and your story is so inspiring. And I'm so thankful that there are people like you that are out there that are willing to tell their story because I know it's not an easy story to tell. No matter, how many times you have good days and bad days. I know how it is to lose somebody, so I know it's got to be a struggle. And for you to put yourself out there so many times and just to help other families and bring awareness, I have all the respect for you in the world. I admire you. And like I said, when I saw your story, I was so touched. I just could not stop thinking about it. And, the fentanyl, it's been an epidemic. And, we see it all over the news and social media about the dangers and escalation of fentanyl. Could you tell our listeners some about what fentanyl is and some awareness and prevention strategies?
Absolutely. So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is 50 times more potent than morphine. And there's a stigma behind fentanyl. I guess people only think that it happens to addicts, or people that, do drugs, but that's not the case. And for me, I like to change the verbiage up whenever it comes to fentanyl, and they call it an overdose. It's not an overdose if someone does not know what they are taking. You know,
Right.
um, it's simply poisoning. It is poison, and I am adamant that it be called poison and not an overdose. My child did not die from an overdose. My child died from fentanyl exposure poisoning, and that that in itself hurts. The statutes of that is just it's just very sickening to know that my daughter, a 4-year old, passed away this way. And not only her, but so many other kids I've been seeing 18 months old and 7 years old and 10 years old and 12 years old and 15 years old and 17 years old and 18, and it goes up. And then it's like, but these individuals, these teens, these young adults, and I push for that so hard because we live in a generation where, social media is so big, but kids they have anxiety. The population of children, they have anxiety, the young teens and adults trying to keep up with X, Y, and Z. I recommend that these kids kind of stay off social media for a bit and really settle in and be present in their life, just because the dangers are on social media as well. They could be, not wanting to go to the doctor or not wanting to speak with their parents or grandparents about what they're going to do and what they're going through. And then, say, hey, they get on Snapchat and so and so is selling XYZ and they're thinking they're getting, anxiety pill. And it's not. It's fentanyl and they die, you know, unfortunately. And it's because they're not educated. They're not educated. The family members aren't educated. And unfortunately, I've come to terms that no matter how much I talk about this, there are going to be some people that fully on support what the Bright Light Foundation is doing. They're going to fully support what I'm doing. But there's those individuals who are stigmatized that are not going to support it, or they're going to turn their back to it until it happens to them. And so the measures that we take in regards to awareness and prevention is making sure you're already ready before you have to become into a prevention state of, a mind state to prevent this. You're already aware of the dangers. You're already aware of the text messages and the emojis that are being sent. You're already aware of what it looks like. So there's different measures that you can take for that. And certainly recommend taking a naloxone training course. It's not long. The Bright Light Foundation offers certification to be, naloxone certified, because it's basically like CPR now, except for you're
Yeah.
using a nasal spray to save or try to save someone's life. And so that's a little bit of the measures that we take, but also the main measure in taking or providing prevention to these families, to these kids, is really meeting them where they're at and telling them real life stories. This happened to me, someone who doesn't do drugs, someone who, and my daughter, doesn't sell drugs. I had no idea what fentanyl was. Had absolutely no idea what it was. And then, my it just was like a punch in the gut to me and to my family that this happened to us, because I don't do that. And I'm not, you do what you do. You're an adult, whatever. But as far as that being around children, there needs to be a penalization for that. Being exposed to such potent drug is poisoning. So if that answers your question correctly.
It does. And thank you for sharing that.
I really want to thank you. Sorry, this made me emotional.
Mm.
My cousin Jared died to fentanyl poisoning, and I really appreciate that language. Because calling it an overdose never felt right, but I didn't know what else to call it. And oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know this
No,
could
you're
happen.
fine.
That loss of Jared Childress, to say his name, was horrific. Obviously, we're still not over it, and it was years ago. And I really appreciate what you're doing, and I really appreciate that change in verbiage, because our words do matter, and that makes me feel better about what we've gone through, because that is what happened. I mean, fentanyl is a poisoning.
That
So
is
thank you.
exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened.
I'm really appreciative of that. I had never heard the change in those words, and I mean, it really hit me. That's very powerful. Our words really do matter.
Yes, they do. Whenever, if you go on the Bright Light Foundation website, you'll see our news clips and things like that on there. And I was very irritated with the news anchors calling my child's death an overdose. And I kept telling them, it's not an overdose. It's poisoning. She was poisoned. Everyone that I speak with, they actually hear me say that it's a poisoning, and they're like, you changed the verbiage. Yeah, because look up the definition of what poison is, and look up the definition of an overdose. Two completely different things.
Right.
Very much. I mean, especially, geez, in the case of your child, I mean, she's 4. Like,
Correct.
Can't eat. Oh my gosh. It's the words are powerful. I just thank you a lot for them. And I will be changing my verbiage from now on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get it back together so we can dive back in. So I also see that your agency is really passionate in spreading awareness and hope through pregnancy loss. It's another thing I could get emotional about. I've not gone through pregnancy loss, but we've talked about a good bit on the podcast. I'm in the midst of a, year plus long fertility journey, which has its own stressors. Could you tell us some of your foundation's perspective on awareness and support for those who have experienced pregnancy loss?
Absolutely. Every loss that we go through requires recovery. And whether that be the loss of a child, infertility, a loss of a spouse, a loss of a job, a loss of a home, employment, they'll have to recover from that some way, somehow. And my grief journey, I am a living, breathing, walking testimony to other people, no matter what they're going through. And I actually work at a hospital, and there's some things I've seen, and I know I'm not supposed to tell these people these things, but I do try to encourage them from my story. Like, listen, if I can go through all that and still be here today, then whatever you are going through, you can still be here today. It's just a matter of choosing your heart. It's always going to be hard. You know, it's
Right.
just a matter of how you get through it, how you view it, your perspective on it. And what the only thing that holds me together to this day is my faith. It's my faith and knowing that my daughter's okay. Um, I used to work at a pregnancy crisis center, and so there was so much I seen there before I even lost Brighton. They helped me tremendously during the walk of my pregnancy. I was a single mom, and even after that, I became a volunteer, and then I started, working there, doing teaching health education and things like that to these moms who wanted to, maybe they didn't want to, but they had thought about aborting their child. And Brighton, the doctors wanted me to abort Brighton while I was pregnant. And that was because she had Turner syndrome, and she had well, they gave her a 1% chance of life. And I told them, nope, you're the doctor. I understand that. You see what you see. But sometimes you have to go based off of the unseen. You got to have the faith in the unseen things. And so I told my doctor immediately that I didn't want to see him anymore, that I wanted to go somewhere else. And so I had Brighton. I had her 3 weeks early. She was in the NICU for a month and a half. Um, and someone asked me, they were like, what do you think your life would be like if you went through that abortion? You wouldn't have to be going through what you're going through now with Brighton passing away from fentanyl poisoning. And I said, yeah, you're right, but I will be going through something completely different. I'll be going through something completely different. And I wouldn't know what it would be like to experience Brighton's love, because to know Brighton is to love Brighton. And I miss that girl so much. I miss her so much. Um, but that's if that answers your question, I just try to relate with people. I try to meet them exactly where they're at and be real and raw and vulnerable. Um, because sometimes that's what we need. We don't need people to give us a how to, or this,
Right.
do this or do that, to try to not necessarily get over something, because you don't ever get over a loss.
Right.
I just tried to meet people exactly where they're at. And I don't think, I know that helps individuals with me being vulnerable. And sometimes I'm not as vulnerable, because sometimes that space is for me and God alone. And a lot of people look at me strong and all these things, and I am. I look back from where I was 2 years ago to where I'm at today, and it's nothing but the goodness and grace and mercy of God over my life. But there's days like this morning, I was looking at my daughter's birth certificate, and I was looking at her death certificate, and I'm just like, how can this be? How can this be? Um, but I just like to meet people where they're at. I don't push anything on them. I'm just real and raw, and I talk about my faith, and I don't push my faith on anyone, but I talk about my faith because my faith has gotten me to where I'm at today. And I'm not saying my life is perfect by any means. It is not. It's not perfect. I grieve every day for my child, but that grief looks different every single day. And as long as you keep waking up, God has something for you. God has something for you, and you don't know what it looks like until you look back and you connect the dots.
Right.
And that vulnerability is strength. And I so appreciate your words of that strength and that vulnerability that you give to others is in connection. I think that's so profound. I think, sometimes people think that they have to say the right thing to kind of quote unquote make someone feel better. And Brene Brown said in a video where she's like, rarely can your words help anybody to feel better, but what can help someone to feel lighter is connection and knowing that you're
Correct.
not going through something alone. And I think that's so empowering and amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think when you're more genuine, that connection, you're able to form a bond, or some type of you can relate to. And I think that's way more helpful than a how to or, getting on stage or, trying to say the right thing. Sometimes people need to see the raw emotions because that's what's real. That's what's really out there when things like this happen. And a lot of the news and stuff, they don't put real, they just put what they think is supposed to be said. And so, when you have somebody like you who's willing to be vulnerable and be honest and talk about what you've been through, I think it makes 100% difference on how people connect with you. Like I said, I saw you on YouTube and I watched you and I saw all your emotions, your strength, you talked about your good days, your bad days. And I was just like, man, that's one of the most realest episodes of this show I've watched. And like I said, people need that. People, need to know that they're not alone either. And I think that's what helps as well.
Yes.
And for us as an agency at V-Link, being that we are anchored in suicide prevention and we feel very passionately about gun safety, secure storage, and options like self-surrender, could you tell our listeners some of your foundation's perspective when it comes to gun violence?
Yes, I can. For the listeners, you're going to probably be like, what type of superpower does this woman have? But I don't have any type of superpower. I lost Brighton's dad in 2018 to gun violence on Father's Day. He was shot in front of me multiple times and later on died at the hospital. The very next day, I found out I was pregnant with Brighton. Brighton was born on his birthday, so they share the same birthday. Um, but when it comes to gun violence, it really hits home for me. I am still triggered by loud noises. And this happened in 2018, it's 2026. I can't listen to fireworks. I can't watch fireworks. I can't stand the sound of something slamming or things like that because though I'm not in that moment of the past, I'm still triggered by that past trauma of being there watching the man I love get killed in front of me. So what I recommend as for safety and it's just not that was just my personal story to relate to gun violence because it's very big for me.
Right.
Brighton's dad should have been here to experience life with her, with us. And it could have been prevented. A lot of things could have been prevented, but you just take what you know now of what you didn't know then and apply it to your life. And I recommend for any adult, um, if they have children, because I do see a lot of kids getting killed and things like that. Um, and just gun violence all across the country. It's horrible, it's evil, it's wicked, it's just wicked. And there's really no prevention for people that, have made up in their mind that they're just gonna, go and knock someone off. So but really I recommend getting with the police department or with the a gun range and things like that to learn how to truly secure a gun, put the safety on, learn how to shoot a gun, but not necessarily shoot someone, you know.
Right.
And as far as keeping things locked up, that is a good prevention. Um, but at the same time, if you're going to be secure, you might want to be extra secure, like putting a security code on it, an extra lock, a padded lock with the key that can't be found, where only you know where it's at, you know, not leaving anything out in the open and really not exposing children to certain things as gun violence, because it doesn't just start with them making the decision to go out here and shoot someone. It starts at home. It starts with what they're watching on TV. It starts with what they're seeing on social media. You
Right.
know, it doesn't just start with, oh, they just went and shot and killed someone. No, what is he or she mentally going through? What happened in their childhood to proceed up to this event, you know?
Right.
Um, so those are some things to take into consideration whenever it comes to gun violence, because it is a violent crime against someone. And to also take into consideration of your actions. Your actions are going to account for something. And when you do decide to make that decision and go out here and make that choice, you've made a choice, so you're going to have to make your bed and lay in it and know that your choice has affected someone else's entire family.
Yeah. Change their whole world.
Right.
Changed absolutely everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to plug a few resources we know about here, VLink being based in Louisiana, our VA program has amazing trainings on secure storage and also on self-surrender. We have a podcast episode about it with them, so please go check it out. Quick reminder on the steps of secure storage that is that your gun should be unloaded and it should be on safety and it should be with a gun lock and locked away. And then that also the ammunition should be separate and locked away from that firearm. And those are the steps of secure storage. And again, here in Louisiana, police departments, you can go get a gun lock. You do not have to put your name on any list or registry. You can also get them from a lot of our Human Service Authority offices as well as from our VA offices. So please be sure to securely store your
Yes.
firearm. Um, Consequences of not are deadly, and it's very real. And I appreciate your frank discussion and disclosure about gun violence, because I think even so often, even the term gun violence or security, I was in a really great presentation about this where they were like, guns are to kill people. So you have to really be frank about that if you're talking about them as something for protection or with involving humans, not talking about hunting or anything like that.
Correct.
So just to really remember what that is. And I just really encourage that for all parents. It has nothing to do with what a good parent you are. There's a lot that can influence younger folks and that can affect their mental health that has nothing to do with what a wonderful parent you are. And there's just no turning back with guns when it comes to actions against others or suicide attempts. 98% mortality rate with firearms as suicide attempts.
Yes.
Just to speak again, sorry, because I brought up suicide. We are discussing a lot of mental health issues. We are discussing grief. We are discussing feeling alone. I just want to remind everybody that 988 is available 24 hours a day. VLink is a very proud answerer of 988, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. 988 is available everywhere in the country, 24 hours a day for free. It is confidential. You do not have to give your identity disclosing information, and we are there for whatever you are going through. That can include thoughts of suicide. That can include struggling with thoughts of violence. That can include worrying about somebody else. That can include because you're just overwhelmed and you don't know who to talk about it today. Never hesitate to call 988. We want to hear from you because you matter.
Yeah. And you can always text 980 as well if you're not comfortable talking on the phone.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm an old person, so I
No,
thank you
you're
for
good. You're good.
Oh, so Cheyenne, though your foundation is focused on addressing these topics that we've been discussing that can seem scary and are tough and hard to talk about, you are clearly so anchored in faith and in hope. How do you think that someone balances experiencing grief, trauma, or loss with faith and with hope?
I guess that would be a personal perspective.
Mhm.
Everyone's story is different. So what you see me doing in my faith and my hope, someone else's may do or may not do. Someone else may choose to go a different route, you know. So as far as that goes, my faith and my hope is all based on my personal preferences to get me through whatever I need to get through in this life.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense because, like you said, everybody grieves differently, thinks differently, believes differently. So that makes a lot of sense. But in your and working in your agency, you deal with a lot of heavy subjects and topics. How do you balance your own experience while hearing stories of others?
That is something that I work on every single day. Um, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. I'll probably make it look easy, getting on stage, talking to people, doing all these things, but it's far from easy. Um, but what I do after these events and after relate to people and do outreach and all these things and tell of my story to help someone else, that's help save someone else's life and change theirs. Because in changing someone else's life, that's where the hope and faith come in. That's what we're hoping to do, to let that faith and hope build into them to change their outcome of what they're going through and how they are coping with their grief or their circumstances. And that's why that is very much reiterated, because I've seen it, what it can do in my life and many others. But I like to take the time to know that God trusts people's with blessings,
Yeah.
but when he trusts you with pain, that's completely different. And God has trusted me with so much pain to turn it into something absolutely amazing. My pain fuels me. It absolutely fuels me. You probably think I'm crazy, but I'm not. It fuels me. Um, it gets hard. I'm in here crying on my living room floor. I live by myself, and something just ignites in me because I'm thinking of, wow, this individual went through this and told me that I helped save their life. Wow, this individual, she lost her mom and she's coming at me for advice. Wow, this lady here, she lost her sister to let's say in a car accident, and she wants to talk about to me about how to help her get through it. So it's not I don't look at myself as being an inspiration. I look at myself as helping these people. I am here to help these people and help change and save their lives. And for me to do what I do, I have to be really centered and I can't pour from an empty cup. So there's certain things that I will not do. There's certain things that I will not engage in. There's certain, like, if I get invited to a lot of things to come speak and things like that, but once I am overwhelmed, I have to set a boundary as no, maybe a different time. I can't, because I can't pour from an empty cup and have my emotions all over the place when I'm here to help other people. I also like to be very centered in what God has called me to do within this organization, and helping other people. So as for me, I just like to stay really grounded and not over pour myself into a lot of activities because it is a very much, I don't want to be emotional burnt out, if that
Right.
makes sense, because it's very emotional, as it
Mm.
should be. And I'm just relating to the people, and a lot of people are going through a lot of things, and it's best to just be kind to everyone. And I try to be kind to myself by doing certain things I love to do. So
That is an amazing segue because we love to talk self-care on this show, in particular for help givers, because sometimes I think help givers there's almost this pressure to think that you're immune to needing to take care of yourself. But we thoroughly believe that you can't take care of others unless you're putting your own oxygen mask on first. Um, for you, how can you tell when it gets to that point where you might need to pause, when you might be getting overwhelmed? Is there any sort of way that you can know, okay, I'm taking on too much. I need to pause and focus on me for a second?
Yes, I start getting anxiety attacks. I don't answer the phone. I'm very deep in my emotions. I'm crying. I'm doing a lot of things, and then I have to realize, whoa, you know, look at all that you're doing. Of course, you're going to be this way. But
Mm.
also, there's this five senses method that I do also to center myself and get back grounded again. So obviously the five senses, look, see, smell, all the things as to what's around me to calm my nervous system.
I'm a
Yeah, and the
big
five
believer in that.
senses is yeah, we I on the line that's discussed as well to help people who, have anxiety or, they might be triggered having a PTSD attack. The five senses seems to work a lot for people. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because that is one strategy that I know that we have talked about on our podcast a few different times. And I know that from what I've heard from people and I've used it myself, a lot of people say that it's very helpful for them. And self care in general is very helpful. What are some of your favorite go to self care activities?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I got to give a shout out to my therapist who taught me that method. She's been my therapist since 2019. So she's been with me through absolutely everything. She's amazing. Some of my self-care activities include me drawing. I absolutely love drawing and coloring. I write. Obviously, I have a book. Um, let's see. And I love shopping. Yep. Yep, I love shopping. My therapist would not consider it a form of self-care, but I do. I love shopping. I love baking sometimes. I don't really like to cook though. I like someone to cook for me.
I think people are so one or the other with that. It's so interesting. I love cooking, but baking, I like making a cake mix stresses me out.
Yeah, that. Let's see. And I love just listening to my worship music, or I like listening to like jazz music in the background, very ambiance feeling, and reading a book.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am definitely guilty of like going to the Amazon app for my dopamine fix at times. But
Tell me about it. I'm like, this is insane. But it's okay. TJ Maxx and Home Goods,
Oh, TJ
it'll be
Maxx is my
fine.
store. Yeah.
I am like the one that like we get so many packages delivered, and Lewis is like my husband. Lewis is like, "What did you order?" And I'm like, "I don't know. This is a surprise." I was stressed out the other day. Things got weird. I have dog galoshes now, but it's going to be icy. So now I'm glad that my dog will have galoshes for this weekend.
Oh, how cute. Yeah, I love shopping. So it's a form of self-care for me.
Yeah.
So we all are going to have I'll call it our non-guilty pleasures for dopamine hits. And if they're not harming us or others, I think it's okay.
I do too. I certainly agree with you there.
Well, for anyone who is listening today who may be really struggling with loss with anything that they've been going through, what would you say to them and what would you most want them to know?
That it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel alone, but know deep down, really dig deep down and know that you're not alone. Feel your emotions and do not suppress them, because once you do, they are going to rise and it's going to hit you like a big wave at the beach. Um, do reach out to someone when you are deep in your emotions and you feel like you can't talk to someone. Certainly reach out to someone. Know that you are loved, you are needed, and you are cared for. And most importantly, God loves you. And whatever you're going through, you can make it through.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So well
thank
said.
you. I love that. And for anyone who would like to get involved or learn more, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go on the Bright Light Foundation website, which is brightlightfoundation.net. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram at Bright Light Foundation. You can also, my personal profile is Cheyenne Speaks, where I talk more so about my book and also share things with the Bright Light Foundation because I do speaking engagements and things like that that all coincide with the Bright Light Foundation. And you can also find the book on there as well, which is called Beauty from Ashes, a story of redemption and hope. And in that book, it really takes a deep dive into what I was going through during those years of Brighton passing away from 2023 up into 2025. It includes my prayers, my poems, and the letters I had written to Brighton. It also includes pictures of her dad. As I mentioned before, her dad passed away, and both of their birthdays are coming up on Monday. So you guys can say a prayer for me as I navigate these emotions. It's very heavy.
Yeah.
The Bright Light Foundation will be hosting a fundraiser at Main Event in Lexington, Kentucky, uh, for Brighton's birthday, where all the proceeds will go to the Bright Light Foundation for us to continue our work and to continue get into the schools and host campaigns against drugs and violence, things like that. But if that answers your question, that's where you can find us, mostly on social media. You can send a message and we will certainly respond back as soon as possible. My email address is on there as well. Phone number is on there as well. So you can certainly get in contact with us. We have many volunteer options. And since you guys are in Louisiana, we are looking to go nationwide as we have been in Oklahoma, DC, New York, Florida, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Texas. So we are looking to have more individuals across the United States become a part of the Bright Light Foundation and help us save lives.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
We are, yeah, I'm like, come on down to Louisiana or
I
Louisiana,
know.
get
I
involved.
know.
We will
Absolutely.
we will
Yes.
have all of these sites and handles in the what does one call it? Description of the show. So please, anybody who wants to get involved or anybody who wants to support, please reach out. As you've obviously heard, Cheyenne is an amazing person, and we just so appreciate you sharing your story and having some real talk with us today.
You are so welcome. I do this not only for Brighton but for others. But I don't want my daughter to be forgotten. She should still be here, and so should so many others. You know, don't forget about that fentanyl poisoning. That's your relative. That's not he did not pass away from an overdose, sweetie. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has just truly been, oh, I've never cried on this before. So thank you.
I
You're
told you
really,
this was going to be a heavy episode.
oh
I
my
told
gosh.
you.
It's not just the heaviest. It truly is your connection. And
Yeah.
I really am so appreciative. You are a bright light and
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. It makes a very big difference.
you're
Yeah.
welcome. Thank you guys for having me.
And like I said, I'm so grateful that you came on today, and I'll definitely be praying for you, and just know that you could always reach out to us. You have our emails. We're always here for you too, and I will be the first person to say I do know that you do contact people back because I sent you an email, and here we are. So, we're definitely going to put your information out on when we post this episode, and like she said, you're definitely a bright light yourself, and like I said, I admire you a whole lot, and I'm so grateful that there are people like you, and I can't thank you enough. There's not words that I can even describe that you coming on this show how much it means to me. Like I wish I could say better words, but there are no words. And like I said, when I saw your story, it truly I cried. I was emotional. I think it's a blessing just for you to be here and to tell your story. And I'm very thankful that you do that.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. So much. And I will be in contact with you so I can get the recording.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
perfect. We will be sure to share it. And I was about to be like, and we'll be posting it, but if you're listening to this, you've found it, so I don't need to tell you. Okay, Jesse, are you ready for our sign off?
Yes.
All right, this has been Real Talk with Jesse and Sherrod. No
No
filters,
Bye.
filters,
no
no
fluff,
fluff, just real
just real
talk.
talk. Thank y'all.
Bye.